Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear, and if you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Refracted, Chocolate Sane, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Let's get it going.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Did you hear me fumbling my intro slightly? There was a slight technical issue just before we went live, literally seconds before we went live. So I was distracted with that. I'm like, no, I'm going to start on time. Let's just go. Let's do it. It's like a pilot. If you ever hear pilots, they've got this in-air mentality. It'll all resolve itself. We can just get the plane in the air. Let's just get off this tarmac. Let's just get on with it. It'll resolve itself once we're up there. And sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it did. We're flying. We're cruising. We're 2 degrees above the horizon. Any evidence of that physical geometric horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
I don't know, but John said you could put it through a scientific method. So I don't know.
I did not say that. Oh my God.
Neil, you're such a troublemaker.
Look, you should, as well as anybody, know what can and can't go through the scientific method. I listened to the conversation, Neil, but it's now worthy of live debate and live discussion. So what's step one?
Observe a natural phenomenon.
Okay, well, you tell me, is the horizon a naturally occurring phenomena?
Yes, I think it's an optical phenomenon, but it's still a phenomenon.
Okay, so therefore you can hypothesize what is the cause of that effect then, can't you? You can put it into a scientific prediction, can you not?
Of course you can.
So you can suppose that you can vary and manipulate, as a researcher, something that is real and formulatable into the suppositional statement of cause for the effect of a horizon. Okay, go on then.
But that's the thing. How are you going to do it? How are you going to vary and manipulate it?
Manipulate what?
So then you can't.
Hold on. Manipulate
the
what?
horizon.
No. No. That's your dependent variable. Now you're trying to induce that as an effect. So while it will vary, i.e. it will happen, if you're calling it an effect. If you're saying the horizon's an effect, yeah, you're going to make it happen because it's something happening, isn't it, Neil?
Yeah, but how are you going to make it happen?
He already answered that. Stand up.
No.
But the horizon.
Neil's not quite there yet. Neil's saying you can't vary the horizon. I'm saying no. If you're going to put this into a prediction that's scientific, you don't vary the horizon. You vary and manipulate an independent variable presumed cause of the horizon. If you're going to call the horizon an effect.
That's what he's asking you, Neil.
Earth curve.
What is your presumed cause that you're going to manipulate to try to create your dependent variable, which was your observed phenomenon, which was the horizon?
Which is a noun.
Mixed up. Then I got it.
Nobody. Hold on. John's got it.
Yeah,
Did anyone else hear John? If not, don't say it again, John. Just let him fumble
It's a
on.
noun. I heard it say it. He said it in the pre-show before too.
Oh well, I'll just ask the question. So we are going to call the horizon a phenomenon then?
No. So then why did we have this whole conversation?
You had this conversation in the pre-show.
Wait a second.
No, notice what's happening.
No, I got to come back. John said it wasn't the horizon. What'd you say, John?
It changing its apparent distance. Or
Okay.
the distance to the horizon changing. You could take
Right.
apparent out of it, really. But that's the phenomenon, not the horizon itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
take it
are
back.
appearances legitimate, or are they appearances just in the perception?
Doesn't matter if it's
That's why I removed it.
it doesn't matter if it's in nature and it's something happening, then it's a phenomena. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon. That's what defines it as a phenomena. Why is that happening? I ask myself. If you look at something and ask yourself that question, I wonder why that's happening, then you can assure yourself that you're dealing with a phenomena. If you just look at it and then describe it as something, noun, then no, you're not trying to establish why that happened. When you look at a tree, it's just a tree. Why did the leaf fall off the tree is a phenomena. Tree isn't.
Okay, so then the horizon is not a phenomenon; it's an optical phenomenon.
No, it's
I'm confused.
concrete noun. That doesn't mean it's a concrete thing. It doesn't mean it's got a postcode.
So it's the same as the Earth, then.
It's like saying sphere.
No.
It's just a word that describes something as opposed to something
What's happening
occurring.
at the horizon?
Well, if something is a happening at the horizon, Neil, then that will be our phenomena, and we'll try and induce that effect with our independent variable being varied as a suppositional cause of the effect yet to be validated. That's how science works. We all clear? Any
I heard-
Clear.
scientific evidence of gravity? As we're on science, why not?
There never
That's
was.
another.
It's not even anything anyone experiences.
Mm,
Not
According
to
to
go
my-
back to the prior question, but I did hear before that the horizon had an address.
I said it hasn't. I said it's when you have a concrete noun, that doesn't make it concrete. It hasn't got a postcode.
Oh man, I thought it did because they told us that at some point that boats and buildings were disappearing behind it. So to disappear behind it, it would have to be somewhere.
I wanted to write
But-
to it. Dear Horizon, I've lost 2 stories of this very valuable building, and the Globers say it's your fault. RSVP
Yep.
Nathan Oakley.
Well, speaking
on
of
the
gravity,
gravity,
If you've lost something to a building, it's a just so story.
Oh, that's
good
epic.
one, good one, good one.
on the gravity thing, though, if I pick an object and drop it, and I describe its movement within along the vertical axis with respect to the horizontal, what's that have to do with the sphere?
I don't know, but that pun was next level.
Nice.
Very good, Nathan. Very good. You
nice.
can put a
Well,
shingle on your shelf now.
wow. Anyway, I was attacked by my 13-year-old and my 18-year-old, not even the big guy. The other two just started attacking me yesterday on gravity and Earth being a sphere while I'm trying to watch the Giant game, even though it was nothing to watch. They got destroyed. But where's this coming from now?
Where's what coming from?
The attacks by my kids.
Oh,
I'll
that's
tell you where it's coming from.
I see. You're trying to. I got you. The scenario is you're just trying to watch the ball game. You're a flat earther with your feet up, your slippers on. Suddenly, poke, poke, poke. The little sods start asking about gravity. What's with that? Correct.
Yes.
Right. It's their own cognitive pain. They've had a little flash of, maybe that doesn't work. I don't like that. That's my dad's fault. I'll poke him.
Yeah, but I think it's coming from this freaking phone, the internet, the TV, all of this heliocentric nonsense that's getting thrown at them. And then they come to me and I had to explain to them. I said, listen, it's all been debunked. That horizon that you see, I broke down the black swan for them as fast as I could.
Well, then you're going about
That's
it all wrong.
gone.
You're going about it all wrong. You're giving a man a fish when you need to give him a fishing rod. So teach them
Well,
discernment.
I went to gravity.
No, the only thing that'll help it is the reasoning, the logical reasoning that they go through to get to their conclusions. I say it all the time.
Precisely.
Can't
Absolutely
skip this step.
perfect. I was going to make that point when I was talking about fishes and fishing rods. Teach them discernment. Teach them how to look at this stuff at a base level. Teach them primary source research. That's what you teach them. Don't teach them that the horizon's not geometric. That's
That's
giving them
the best
a
way is
I
make a
did tell them
TikTok.
that. I asked him, I said, are you getting all of this from what you learned in schooling and what you're getting on TV and what you're getting in the internet? Have you proven any of this? Have you validated any of this? That was my first thing. I know all of that.
Well,
They're
I was
going
gonna-
with consensus.
The answer is simple. Leave them to their pain.
Well,
Yeah, but
so
don't bother me when I'm trying to watch a game.
Well, that's what I would say. Don't bother me while I'm trying to watch a game. I'm sorry you're suffering cognitive pain because you're not logical. Now, leave me alone. My giants are down.
Well, that's his problem. He should have taught them logic and reason. That's Neil's bad, right? He's too busy watching football games. Anyway, shout out to me. Mario knows it's G. I don't know why it cuts off the rest of the name of the person. That's probably the most important thing of a super chat, but there we go. To cut off your name, I'm really sorry. John has a Lamborghini at his house. No, that's somebody going along the superhighway that, let's just break down the Lamborghini analogy, right? Because in case it gets lost on some people, because we are throwing it in left, right, and centre without necessarily explaining it. What the Lamborghini represents, right, is, let's call it the hare and the tortoise sort of competition between a guy that's, in my example, in what's a really crappy car? A Lada. What did you guys have in the States that was really crappy? Yugo?
Oh, my gosh.
You go.
Dodge Dart.
Dodge Dart? Perfect.
You go.
Right, I'm in my Yugo, right, and I'm negotiating really crappy back roads, right? And those back roads are the anti-flat earth and globe-tard back roads of convoluted nonsense and feaster nonsense and garbage rebuttals and complicated logical framework arguments that get you to the end path of showing how
free energy.
No, none of those things are on this particular path. Anyway, thank you. You get to the end of the path and it's proving that the earth is flat. Okay, it's taken quite a long time. It's been a very good battle. The car's been very unreliable. But when you get to the end or near the end, what you look up, you've been so concentrated on the gravelly grass and road that's crap and your car that's breaking down, you haven't glanced up above the horizon to notice that there's giant pillars with a massive highway on it, and there's dude in his Lamborghini flying straight to the end of the finish line, screaming, "You're going to need a flat earth for that," as he goes over the highway, over the top of you in your long, convoluted road to the end of proving Earth's flat. Now that's John in the Lamborghini, because John is the one currently pointing out almost every example, normally comically after I've gone on that long, convoluted path of explaining they're affirming the consequent and how they assume that they've got a drift to be assuming to then deny the drift that they haven't got. John will come along and say, where did you get your axis from? Knowing full well that that is essentially all you need to say to prove that this entire example's cut off at the knees by pointing out that the entire process starts with a flat earth. That's him metaphorically going past me on the horrible windy road and just pointing out that you need a flat earth for that, for the example in the first instance. Almost every example has that happening at the moment. You're going to need a flat earth for that. Is all roads lead to a flat earth. It's just all roads now have a massive highway shortcut from John, who's doing an exceptional job the last couple of months.
So basically,
So
John has paved the way.
Well, it's kind of like it's not really all roads lead to flat Earth. It's all roads start with a flat Earth.
That's a good one. You're right. And to just close up my son's thing was, the last thing he said to me was, well, God's word says, and God made the firmament and called it heaven. So that means it's the air. That was their final rebuttal to me.
Jesus card on you.
Good. You're going to need a container for that.
Just be sarcastic. Thank you, biblical scholar.
Everything leads to flat Earth because that's our reality. We live on a plane. And so they, like Andrew Thomas Young would say, all my refraction calculations were done on a plane, but we know the Earth isn't flat, exclamation point. So we're going to do geometric considerations. So right there in one sentence, this is the denial of the ballers and anti-flat earthers. For us to get anything, we have to treat the Earth as flat. But after we do, we're going to make it a globe because it's not flat.
Sorry to interrupt. Neil, do you watch Paula's channel with your kid?
Oh, I haven't in a while.
Okay.
No.
It's like a Sunday thing for us. It happens to be on around tea time. And while all four of us in this family are all sat around eating, I put Paula on. So she won't get much chat out of me for obvious reasons. I've normally got my face full of food. But my point is, we will, as a family, listen to Paula. Now, the reason I like to have my wife listen to it is because she's a little bit feminist, to be perfectly frank. Not that that necessarily appeals to my wife. She isn't. But, you know, it means that she goes, oh, sure, right. She's for the girls. Gets her attention every now and again. In terms of the kids just overhearing it, I doubt they're going to take in hermeneutics and various other aspects that Paul is covering in Bible literalism. But the fact is, what she is doing is going through the methodology of a very good historical research standard, like exceptional. Well, that's what I take out of what she does, along with the Bible stuff itself. In the most literal terms, she's breaking down stuff in the Bible that some of the time I've read, most of the time I haven't. But it makes more sense when she's breaking it down in great detail. But that breaking down of the language and the translations of the language through primary source research and just good understanding of historic language translation, which Paula has got, shows the methodology. In other words, if they're going to throw the Bible back at you, stick them in front of Paula's show for a bit so that they understand how crude what they've just done is. It'll make them feel about this big. Now, it won't, I'm not saying do it so that it makes them feel that big, because what it'll do is entrench a good understanding of a historic standard of research. Now, yeah, there's a peppering of translation and, as I said earlier, hermeneutics, but that isn't what I want them to learn from Paula. I want them to see what she does to get to the standard to disseminate that information to an audience in a very, very concise way and explain all the steps she's taken along the way, because she's taken them, so she doesn't have to fumble her way through looking through her research to find the stuff. She's done it, and then she just has to find it, which is at her fingertips, to present it concisely, live. Takes some skill to do, right? When they see that standard, they'll start to, if you make, they may not watch, but I'm not saying you can make them, they're not young enough. It's not like my kids where they're sitting down and listening to what I tell them. I'm just saying, if you encourage them to watch Paula's show, they'll get an idea of the type of standard that's expected here. It's a different standard. It's a historic standard on Paula's show on a Sunday, but it doesn't matter. It's just the standard as far as I'm concerned. That is the standard we should all aim for. And no offense to your kids, but they're a mile off, you know, and they need to be shown how far they are off in terms of their discernment. And
Right, by just throwing that word firmament around, yeah, they need to sit in front of that and listen.
But Neil, God is in heaven. No one doubts that. And it says God's throne is above the firmament. So they're done already.
Yeah, but my final thing, and then I'll get off this. I told, because they said something about flat. We don't. I said, when have you ever experienced in your life living on a ball? Just tell me when.
Okay, as
One
much as I
time.
want to get into general flat Earth discussion with your kids, much appreciated. But yes, let's move on. Any evidence you can have as we're talking firmaments? Gas pressure without a container.
Negative. That's the next thing I said to them.
Can I go back to gravity for just 1 second?
Feel free.
When your kids talk about gravity, if you really want to mess with them, pick up something and drop it and say, that required a flat plane to describe it.
Yeah, they'll be lost in the sauce with that one. You'll get that glazed look.
Paula's in the chat.
But
Paula,
that
please,
glazed
hold
look,
on. I just want to appeal to one of my mods. Paula's one of my mods. Please spam your own chat link to one of your Sunday shows, Paula, if you would. Because I want to plug you. In this instance, I'm advising Neil to go to you, but as you're in the chat right now, it'd be nice if you can just stick your own link in so that people can go to your most recent Sunday show, which I also watched, as I do typically. Like I say, didn't leave much chat comments because I'm eating normally when I'm watching your show with the whole family. So that hopefully portrays the type of what's the word? Enthusiasm I have for Paula's show. The fact that I'm prepared to stick my whole family in front of it. There you go. Anyway, can't get much better of a plug than that, if you ask me. Best be grateful, Paula.
I know a guy who used to listen to your show as he jogged with his wife, but he later turned around and called you a scammer. What's wrong with that dude?
Let's not discuss Jaren right now. Jaren's a little bit salty at the moment because I pointed out that this channel has more views than his channel. Now he's really salty. You know, tell him that he doesn't have the slightest idea what science is. Total indifference, couldn't care less. Tell him that you've got more views than he has. Suddenly he's really salty, sending me loads of messages.
Well, that should tell you. There's where his head is
Seriously?
at.
Yeah, seriously.
So
The last time this happened,
so
right? The last time this happened was with a guy called, I think he was called Geo Streber. And what he did was he went to one of his videos that he'd got over 1,000 views on. And he went, look, my video's got over 1,000 views in the last 24 hours. That's how long this show's been out. You've also had a live show within the last 24 hours, and it's only got 600 views. Therefore, I'm more popular than you. I'm like, you having me on? This channel at the time, let's say it had 1 million views. I don't know how many it had at the time, but let's say it had 1 million. I'm like, the channel's got 1 million views. Are you having me on? You've done one show that's done okay on your crappy little channel, and you're telling me you're more popular than I am? Well, no. All YouTube cares about is 2 things: views and watch time. That's it. That's the only metric they care about, because it's the only one that's important. How much are people watching you? How often are they watching you? How long are they watching you for? In other words, how long are they staying on our website? That's YouTube. If you keep them on your website for longer, clicking back on your videos, good. That's all that matters. It's the only metric that counts. I learned that immediately. Anyway, now some people, like me, have to work 10 times harder to achieve more than someone like Jaren. That's right. I have to make 10 times the number of videos. I have to work morning, moon and night while he basically has a very easy life on YouTube, doesn't have to do a great deal. But I'm still more successful than him. That's the bottom line. Views, YouTube, watch time, that's it. That's the only metric they care about. Now, I know this. I also know that it'd be lovely to not have to do 10x the work to outperform Jaren. I'd love to only do 1/10 of the work and achieve the same result. But that's not me. Yeah, I know I've got a little channel. I know I've got to work 10 times harder to do better than Jaren. And I have done better than Jaren. That's the bottom line now. But he's really salty about it. So he wants to compare what? Number of concurrent viewers on one video? Who gives a shit? Nobody cares. The only metric that counts is views and watch time when it comes to YouTube. How long are people staying on the website is all that they're interested in. How many ads can we offer up to them? That's all they care about. Yeah? Well, in that respect, I'm winning. Why? Because I've worked 10 times harder to achieve it, which is why I get more salty when I get called a scammer. So what? My 10x the work for your 1/10 the work means you can start calling me a flat earth scammer? What bloody outrage, you lazy sod. No, I've worked 10 times harder to achieve more. But you want to quantify it, or Jaren in his messages wants to quantify it in terms of how popular his individual videos are. Yeah, you don't have to work as hard, Jaren. Yeah, I work harder.
Now, Nathan, not only that, but you have what, 25,000 plus subscribers. He said he has 160,000, and so you got to take that into account as well, and you're still beating them in the analytics.
Well, I don't think we should get drawn too far into this. The fact that Jaren is upset that his appeal to consensus failed is like, I don't think Nathan's view count really matters as much as Jaren thinking it does. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing to me is he doesn't care about being wrong about the scientific method, but boy, he's upset about Nathan having more views and being more successful. Boy, that's telling.
Yeah, he's appealing to consensus, but then it failed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jaren's whole shtick is
unfortunately
he's got the numbers.
Unfortunately, what the heck?
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's become personal.
Yeah, it always was. I know Jaren. I've met Jaren. I've shook his hand. We've chewed food together. What do you want to, I don't know what to say. I know the guy. I've met the guy. We've worked together. So, yeah, I'm going to be salty. I'm going to take it personally. And in this respect, I'm just having a little dig. If you want to get an idea of how influential someone actually is based on metrics, go to Social Blade. Just type in someone's channel name and you can see how they quantify overall social impressions or influential metric. I don't know what you call it, but they just give you a rating. Well, if you actually put Nathan Oakley 1980 into Social Blade, and then you put Geronism into Social Blade, we both get the same exact rating. B-. In other words, in terms of social influence, me and Geron are about the same. Now, they don't care that I have to work 10 times harder than Geron to achieve that. They just go, yeah, you're about the same influence as each other. And that's the reality. I have about the same amount of influence as Geron does. Like I say, does it matter? I work 10 times harder to get that.
You're looking for you broke bread with him. Hold on. He said chewed food. You broke bread with him.
Broke bread with him. That's the term I was looking for.
But the thing is, like, they're quantifying influences view count. But if you think about it, we have a lot bigger influence than that, because look at the way people react to the arguments that have originated from this panel and how many views they get. Because the responses to those arguments are not helpful to heliocentrism at all.
No. Indeedy. Anyway, enough of the bitterness. Not that it is.
I have one comment.
Okay. I was going to move on to the video, but go ahead.
All people can talk about, especially in the politics server, is the black swan and how they don't see any practical way of actually measuring curve. That's what we've done. Congrats, guys.
Well, thank you for that. It's nice to know the black swan is alive and kicking. Hello, Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Good to have you. We're going to get into this video. So this is recommended by 10th. And as always, there's been a link go by already in the live stream chat, but I already knew it would be too much of a faff because this is coming from a playlist. Nevertheless, the videographer is called Aswan Kurula, Kourula. Kurula. Aswan Kurula. There you go. Said his name right at least once. Better than I normally do. So yeah, check him out. Hopefully one of the moderators will go back up the live stream and grab the link to the video. In this case, it's part 1 of a series, which is Astronavigation for Beginners. So we're going to get into this. I don't know if 10th wants to give us a little preamble. He normally does. Do you want to give us a little preamble on why we're covering this?
Yeah. Early on, I ran into this gentleman's channel and enjoyed it. I said, I'll save it for later. And now that time has come. He uses a CAD program, much like Rob Durham did. And we're going to find out precisely where the origin of the vertex and the angle comes from.
Oh, he didn't give me enough of a preamble. I was going to see if I could do because I didn't see a mod getting it. Oh, there it is. There's a share button. Found it. Okay, so I will do the proper full shebango. So going by the live chat right now is the link to this videographer, who's a smaller videographer, so please do go and share him some love. Leave him a comment that says something along the lines of, liked your video, we responded to it, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Just give him a nudge, help him in the algorithm. YouTube loves comments, they love interaction, means you're staying on the website for longer. So yeah, help this guy in the algorithmic love, in the vain hope that we would receive the same in return. So where we as flat earthers are shoved to the bottom of the lists and receive absolutely no algorithmic love whatsoever from YouTube, hopefully getting videographers like this to respond to our videos when we talk about them, with them putting links to our videos, would do the same thing as YouTube should be doing for all videographers, but don't because Congress have told them not to. So there we go. Anyway, let's get on to this video. Let me know, feel free to interrupt if there's something that you want to interrupt over.
Mariners use the stars to find their position on the earth. This is the video for you. And also, if you practice astronavigation, or at some point you've actually done some astronavigation and you've been overwhelmed by the steps involved and all the arithmetic and the seemingly meaningless series of steps you got to do in order to find your position, and you're not really sure how it works actually, this is the video for you. So basically, if you're an absolute beginner or you've been
we're into
a CRM shouldn't weigh your budget.
This video is all about understanding the concepts, okay? So
Unfortunately, I can't do anything about the 60 hertz mains buzz or him overloading his microphone. That's his bad. I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, let me just start my annotation. Okay. So this is all about the concept. So I am not going to be telling you how to open a nautical almanac, how to...
Can you guys hear that? That'd drive me nuts if that was on my video. The 60 hertz transformer hum. Can you hear that? You can hear room noise and transformer hum and mic clipping. This is already making my skin crawl.
When you ask, Nathan, we never hear it, but then when I listen to the show again, then I hear it.
Let's just let Brian in.
To look up values in the almanac. I'm not going to tell you about site reduction tables, or how to go through these tables with these numbers there, and how to pick out the right number and then put it into your calculation sheet, do the arithmetic. I'm not going to be talking about any of this. Not site reduction tables. I'm not going to be talking about sextants, but I will be talking about a clock. So of all the things you're probably used to while doing astronavigation, and those of you who haven't done any astronavigation, you don't need to worry at all, because I will not be talking about any of these things, right? This is all about the concepts and just understanding the concepts. But I will need you to understand the clock. So that's probably the only prerequisite you need to understand this entire lecture. Right, let's move on. Okay, you're probably going to need a pencil and a piece of paper, because well, it's just easier to understand things when you will. If you just try to listen to what I'm saying, you will not learn anything, which you can just download off the internet. And I'll be using these 3D models like you can see here to present the ideas across to you. Now you got to try and remember that even though this model is actually a 3D model, I'm constrained by the fact that you're looking at a 2D screen. Okay, so I'm projecting a 3D image or a 3D object onto a 2D screen. So I'll do my best, but you will have to kind of make a leap of imagination when I'm drawing things, because as you can probably understand, it's not easy to project a 3D image onto a 2D screen, which is what you're looking at. You're looking at a
So far, a lot of apologetics for what he's not covering, but there we go.
Computer screen. Okay, so
hold on.
you
He
need
did
to
say
use your
that
imagination.
by listening to him, we won't learn anything. So
No, the context,
Okay,
the
we've gone from-
context there
hold on,
was
hold on.
you learn more by writing down.
Okay, we got that. Your mic's all distorted too, Arwin. Just back off your mic a bit.
When I draw lines and things like that. Okay, so this is what I'm using, OpenSCAD. All right, now I will be uploading all the 3D images. What I'm saying, well, you could download these files, right? Okay, for some of you may not, but in case you're interested, these files are available. This is important. In this tutorial, we will assume nothing. So you can just come in here with a blank slate and
Pause.
with no
Pause.
assumptions at all.
Pause. Okay, this is great. He says right here, we're not going to assume anything. We're not coming in here with assumptions. And then watch the assumptions build up. Just a little note here.
No previous knowledge needed, and at the end of it, you should understand how astronavigation works.
No previous knowledge. He's already said that we're going to be talking about a clock, aren't we? So I can only assume...
No. What?
Go on.
Yeah. Let me explain. Yeah, he says, look, I'm not going to go through the sextant, the nautical almanac, site reduction tables. I'm going to share concepts. So this is key. It's just the concept of how the whole thing must be to work. Then he says, but there's one thing I am going to talk about, and that's time, a clock, okay, because he wants to use time, okay. And then he says, get pencil and paper, follow me along so that it sticks in. I mean, it's going to be hard for you to remember unless you take notes. And then this point, I'm not going to assume anything. I don't want you to have any assumptions. But when he starts his talk, he assumes the sphere right away. He assumes an R value right away.
Let's just jump right into it. All right, the first lesson, okay. Lesson number 1, light rays from distant objects reach us as parallel lines. I'm going to say that again. If you have a distant object like a star.
That was an assumption. There are light rays do not exist. So them traveling, whatever rays don't exist. So assumption number one.
Well, parallel light rays, right? No evidence of that at all.
Well, they don't.
According to Rumpus, you can act as if they exist.
Yeah, they don't claim parallel light rays. They claim they're almost exactly parallel because of the size of the sun and its distance from us. That they're almost exactly parallel when they reach us. That's the claim.
Yeah, but that's with the sun. With the stars are even further away, so they should be perfectly parallel, or they wouldn't reach us.
Like there are no light rays reaching us, right? Light rays are in existence only in things like ray tracing. If you're a gamer, you'll be familiar with this term, right? These are concepts. There are no light rays. John said it first. Nobody listened. Do you want to just repeat it again, John?
The assumption it was that there are light rays from distance. That's the assumption he's made that it was objectively false.
Or the sun.
I agree.
All right, and that is emitting light. Okay, that light will eventually reach our eyes, or it will reach the earth rather. Okay, and when it does reach the earth, these lines will be parallel to each other.
So again, it's got light traversing mediums reaching Earth. Dangerously close to an assumption there.
So these are the three takeaways. This is very important. All right, this is the foundation of astronavigation. Light rays from distant objects reach us as parallel lines. And I'm not going to do a rigorous proof here or anything, but I'm just going to give you a vague, just an understanding of what I mean. All right, so here's a light source, these 3 light bulbs, okay? And here's your eye, all right, as you view it.
Ed?
Yeah, the whole globe claim of parallel light rays is debunked by the moon shadows. Because they can't claim that the sun is that big and far away. If the full moon gives them within their model, and it does, the exact same shadows. So I could claim within that paradigm, I could claim that the moon is that big and far away, and the sun is small and local, or they're both big and far away, or they're both small and local, and they wouldn't be able to debunk it. Actually, to claim that they're both small and local, it would be the most undebunkable claim you could make there. So
okay.
Within their paradigm. Go on, John.
But how will we know how will we know whether they're parallel, divergent, or convergent?
Oh, by doing
what are we going to measure?
Oh, well, we're going to do it as depicted on screen here, with us seeing the side of our own eyeball and then an orthographic representation of light sources. So observer on the left, light source on the right. Does this all seem familiar to anybody?
Yeah, it's their paradigm. Orthographic.
Well, hold on. The light rays coming in, what are we measuring in reality? Like, I know there's going to be a depiction of it.
Shadows.
What is he calling?
Shadows.
He's measuring the length of the shadows to get what?
He hasn't told us yet.
Eratosthenes measured.
He hasn't told us yet. We're assuming he hasn't told us anything yet. Let's just listen.
Okay, now, if you look at the way the light reaches your eye, the edges of your eye from this light source, okay, you can see that's the angle, right? Now if I move the light source away slightly, right, and these are isotropic light sources, which means they're throwing light equally in all directions, okay? So it's not as if they're directional sources, they're just throwing the light equally in all directions. Okay, so let's look at this one, and now the same thing. So light rays from this, now my diagrams may not be as good as I'd like them to be. Oh, hang on. Okay, all right, here we go. You just use my light pen. Yeah, that's better. That's much better. So you can clearly see that if this was the angle A, right, and when they move the light further away, this is the angle B, you can see that B is less than A. Now let's move the light even further away to over here, and now the light rays from the source will probably reach you like this. Assume that if I move that
Okay, there are no light rays. Hashtag shit shrinks. The angle decreases as things get further away, even in Muppet vision. Okay? So what?
light source all the way to infinity, then these rays will become parallel to each other because the angle is reducing between
Infinity.
this angle is less than this angle.
There is no such thing in reality. So he's moved the light source to infinity and claims that once you get to infinity, these ever converging rays become parallel. That's his claim.
He said angle.
Yeah, as they do, though, the angle of the shadows on the surface of Earth, the angle that creates between the tip of the shadow and the top of the person, the moment he puts this into side view, he's going to destroy himself because he can't depict a spherical Earth with an infinitely distant sun and light rays striking the surface because you can never measure that.
Is less than this angle.
But you can.
Right?
Sorry, but you can presume the sun to be a certain size and distance based off its angular size, like Eratosthenes did, and claim if it was that size and that distance, and we were on a globe of radius 3959 miles, that's all been pre-assumed, then the angles of the shadows that we see in reality would match.
How do we compare these?
The angles of the shadows.
How do we compare these angles? Do you have some sort of reference to be able to compare them?
Like a flat plane.
I can hear those bloody cars going immediately. 5v12 startup. Let John answer.
Right. The angles. The minute you invoke angle with the shadow, you're using Earth as a flat plane, and that's your reference for these angles.
I see. So the difference in this Muppet Vision angle depiction that he's got on screen is going to be ultimately with reference to a flat horizontal baseline. So you're going to need a flat Earth even at this early stage of the examples he's making. How interesting. Any more? We're going to spin on.
Right, to assert that the rays that don't exist parallel, you will in a flat plane to assert that.
That's where you do the Ferrari or Lamborghini. See, we've gone through the Reekin. Yeah? 5 straight minutes of it on this one slide. And then John comes along. It wasn't John in this case, it was me prompting him, but the same thing applies. It's John's example. I've just cottoned on how to do the trick. Copyright Nathan Oakley, 1980.
Right, so C is less than B is less than A, and so if I go out to infinity, eventually that angle will become 0. And so if the angle between the two lines is 0, the two rays of light, then we say that they are parallel to each other. So this angle here is 0, right? And the object is at infinity. Okay, so I hope that's clear to everyone.
Can I just pause that a second?
What is that clear? The whole string of assumptions you've just made in Muppet Vision after declaring quite boldly that you were making no assumptions. Are we all clear on the assumptions we're going to be making? Is that what you're asking us? Whether or not we're clear on it? Oh yeah, we're completely clear on every assumption you made, and we pulled it apart at its foundation and pointed out you'd need a flat Earth for it. How interesting! Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, this is incorrect. The pre-assumption of parallel light rays within the globe paradigm is purely based on the sun being a particular size and a particular distance from a globe of a particular size. The same is with the moon. The moon within their paradigm is a particular size and distance so that it will also give us the exact same shadows, but with divergent light, according to them. Right? So he doesn't know what he's talking about, because their paradigm already has all this covered, and it involves particular sizes and distances, not infinity. Nothing. They claim after that, astrophysicists and all that claim infinity, but all that is nonsense, because it's all dependent on mathematical sizes and distances. Assumptions.
But Brian, in the middle, before he started his what he's talking about, in the middle of his little spiel, he did drop an exact quote. I'm not going to give you a rigorous proof or anything, end quote. So there you go.
He said light. He said that the light goes in all directions when he had that first one. But as it gets to infinity, it's going to be looking like it's parallel. Well, I put some images in Master B, and well, that's not what's happening. Neither is it with the GP of the sun.
He doesn't know his own paradigm. That's what's going on there. He just has a rhetoric. He doesn't know the actual claims. Like a lot of other people.
If you remember, hang on, Nathan, please. If you remember, it is impossible to do celestial navigation on the globe because you can't get an elevation angle from a curved surface. But it is also equally impossible to do celestial navigation without parallel light rays to take to the center. So this is a very big moment for them.
Presumption to make. So let's move on. Okay, now, so if you have a star, which is obviously so far away, it's almost at infinity, I guess. So the light rays from the star would be parallel.
So accept my double speak, where I can draw light coming from this star exactly the same as the light coming from the light source to the eye, and show that it has an angle in the exact same format. Now accept, bearing in mind there's no assumptions here, nothing, no funny business, it's parallel. What? No.
How come we have divergent light in reality if it's parallel?
To each other, but because of the limitations of using a computer screen to show you what I mean, let's say this is the Earth. So
because of the limitations of the computer, accept several assumptions I said I wouldn't be assuming. I see. Seems reasonable.
You can see the Earth over here. So this is the Earth.
So accept my assumption that you are now approximately 500,000 miles away from Earth. And Earth is a sphere, and Earth is floating. So billions of tons of soil and rock and ocean are floating in a sky vacuum, with a star that clearly has an angle to it being described as parallel, but accept that none of these are assumptions, merely limitations of the computer. I see.
I will accept all of those and point out, but I will point out that upon accepting all of those, how is he going to describe the angle from a curved surface when he tries to talk about parallel or angle?
10th, divergent light could be parallel as long as it's parallel in a divergent way. And there you go.
Wow.
Now, when I draw things for you, I'll draw a star which will look like this. I'll probably use this clip art image or whatever of the sun, and that'll be a star. But obviously, I can't draw this, at infinity, because it'll be at the end of the, outside the screen.
No, there is no such thing as infinity. Infinite distance is something you cannot draw. It's not drawable because it's nonsense. It's a mathematical convention that you've now dropped in to give you parallel light where you didn't have it.
So, what I will do is I will put the star where you can see it, right?
And it'll be the same as the light source with the eye that had an angle to it, but I'm going to now draw straight lines because I need them.
The rays of light that come...
There are no rays.
...will come parallel to each other.
No, they won't. You see, what we're seeing is akin to you saying, I can see the light rays that my wife is looking at because they cross my field of vision sideways. Yeah? That's what this is describing. You looking at Earth as an assumed sphere in a sky vacuum with a light described as infinite, a distance that will never be able to be measured because it's immeasurable because it goes on forever, a concept in maths that isn't possible to describe in physicality. That is on your screen, and further to that, the light that you are being told is what you see is actually you looking at light rays that don't exist side on. So as your partner, wife or husband, looks at something across the room, it's akin to you looking at them, looking at the thing, so you can see both them, the side of their head, and the object they're looking at. And say, I see the light rays side on, because that's what he's showing you.
All right. So they'll come like this. So this is
not all right. Utterly absurd. This is not how I see light. This isn't how anybody sees light. This isn't how light behaves. Light isn't ever seen side on. It certainly isn't seen coming from an infinite star when you're in the middle of space in a sky vacuum, not breathing.
This is something that I'm limited by just by the way of drawing things. So when you see
No, you're limited by your heliocentric assumptions, several of them that you've made already, and are having to disclaim that it's the computer's fault for the limitations of a heliocentric model that doesn't permit parallel light. But yet you put things that have got a set distance based on Kepler and Huygens at an infinite distance. Why would they be at a set distance according to the heliocentric model to only be declared to be infinite and then have it declared as a limitation of the computer? No, I'm sure the computer could program in Kepler if you gave him the scale. That little computer would have no worries with Kepler's scale. Seen it done. But that wouldn't give you parallel light rays, would it? No, it wouldn't, would it?
a star like this, you should, when in my diagrams, you shouldn't imagine that the star is...
So why are we in imagination land? Why are we imagining anything?
Shooting light like this. That's not correct. There's no angle here. They're all parallel.
There's no angle here in this depiction that has an angle. I see.
To each other. And that's only because I'm limited by, I have to draw the star.
Yeah, it's the computer's fault that when you're drawing an angle with something that has an angle that you say would be so far away it couldn't have an angle, but you can't draw it, even though they don't have an infinite distance in your heliocentric model, they have a set distance given to you by Huygens and Kepler. You're telling us it's a limitation of the computer that we have to accept, therefore it's not your fault. Yeah, okay. I think I've unpacked that nicely enough.
Somewhere, I can't draw it out at infinity. So I hope that's clear. Okay? All right, let's move on.
Not okay, not cool.
Right. Lesson 2. The Earth is a sphere.
We're not going to make any assumptions. Lesson 2. Assume Earth is a sphere. I see.
Right, remember we're taking nothing for granted.
Lesson 2. Earth is a sphere.
We're going
that escalated quickly.
Yeah. No, it's hiding things on the front cover. There will be no lies here. Lie number 1.
Well, you can't use parallel light rays with a flat plane.
Number 2 is better, though. Sorry, Brian.
From scratch. So how do we know the Earth is a sphere? Well,
you don't. You measure off a flat plane.
Well, a few thousand years ago, people thought the Earth was flat. And...
yeah, underneath this very video, it'll tell you about the archaic notion, scientifically disproven, of Earth being flat. And yet, this sphere assumption will come from derivations of a flat plane measurement.
One of the, people started looking at the way the Earth cast its shadow on the moon, right? And
sorry, that's another assumption. So, first you assume that you're in an orbital motion, then you assume that Earth, as a sphere in an orbital motion, causes what you call a shadow on a light in the sky. Now that is 3 assumptions. Assuming that we are in orbital motion, assuming that we are a sphere, and assuming that said sphere in orbital motion causes what you assume to be a shadow. Technically 4 assumptions in that last statement alone. When you talk about what causes the shadow of the heliocentric shadow-causing ball Earth in a sky vacuum causing shadows.
And so...
He's messing up his origin story. Like, how did he skip the... People thought that boats were disappearing in the distance over a curve. Like, he went straight to the... people seeing shadows on the moon? That's crazy. That's usually number 2 in their little list.
Yeah, number one would be angular size change of objects meeting mirage at the horizon, being called curved water. That would be number 1.
What about the impossible eclipse?
That's like, we put that in the corner with 90. You don't talk about that. And when we do, we call it impossible, even though it happens. Shh, don't worry about it.
They ruffle your head with terms like that, don't they? What's that? The impossible moon? Oh, well, that's a paradox. No, on your little way. See, you learned a new word, paradox. Now get out of here, you little sod.
Very good picture of a lunar eclipse. But over here, you can see this is the shadow of the Earth cast by the moon. The
You should be sorry. That's your assumption. Yeah, 4 of them. I just listed them.
shadow of the Earth on the moon.
So good an assumption, you're going to repeat it 3 times.
That 3 of those assumptions require a flat plane to measure so you can calculate these concepts. So I don't even think he's, every time he's mentioned angle, he's talking about with respect to a plane of reference, not a curve of reference.
That's going to be video 3 where he gets into that. What I want, I know Adam's here. Adam, you're going to love it. You remember the Eratosthenes stories and the walkie-talkie? Well, it's going to get really absurd here when it gets to that.
All right, and that's always this kind of circular arc is what you'll always see. So ancient people figured out, well, the only way an object can cast a perfectly circular shadow,
which you've assumed it is. You've assumed it's a shadow.
Is if it's a sphere.
Yeah, but
There's
in the
no other
impossible
object.
eclipse, it's inverted.
Right.
No matter where you throw the light from, right? So the sunlight's hitting the Earth, possibly, over thousands of years from various different directions.
Let's just do away with this complete horse tribe. No, when you see the eclipse, it turns red. That ain't a shadow. I've seen it with my own eyes. Yeah, so's my wife, who's making a load of noise in the background. Yeah, it turns red. That's not a shadow.
But what about when the shadow is flat? Like, has anybody ever seen a half moon? The shadow's flat. So I guess we just ignore that because it's curved more most of the time.
What you're supposed to do? Just ignore it.
You don't know that's a shadow, though. If half of a light bulb.
Yeah. I know that, but I'm saying, like, even by their standards, they're saying the shadow's always curved, according to them.
I don't know if we could say that. It's a different kind of it. See, well, one is just the angle which the sun is reflecting off of a sphere, supposedly, and then another is the fault of the Earth blocking the sunlight. So it's like kind of different.
Sure, but this sounds very much like a cause and effect relationship to me, with an assumed phenomena of shadow. But nevertheless, regardless of what you label it, shadow or otherwise, this is something occurring, is it not?
Yep.
Yes.
So therefore,
that's why.
Well within the purview of science. This is right up science's avenue. This is an observed natural phenomena.
That's why I drew your attention at the beginning when he says we're going to make no assumptions, and then he just makes all these assumptions that the globetards make, and then it's not like we've proven this, but this is the way we want to see it and sell it, when we could break down every single one of them.
I just want to state before we go into all those things that the eclipse, what they call a lunar eclipse, it's not an eclipse. As Nathan said, it's just a coloration. There's nothing occulted. An eclipse will be an occultation. There's no occultation in what they call a lunar eclipse. Just a coloration change.
Always, when the lunar eclipse was observed, there was a circle. The arc was that of a circle. So the only way that an object can throw a circular shadow is if it's a sphere, right? So, lesson number 2, the Earth is a sphere, right?
Okay. With all the assumptions that they made with this cause and effect relationship, that they decided that the only way they could describe their pre-assumed phenomena of shadow on ball is with another ball in an orbital motion. So it could only occur if Earth is a sphere moving around the sun and causing a shadow, which it isn't when it turns red. Okay, lesson number 2. You all understand how we beg the question and affirm the consequent. of Earth being a sphere. Excellent. Thank you for that excellent fallacious reasoning lesson.
It's so fallacious because, hang on, Brian, let me finish and you go. It's so fallacious because in the impossible eclipse, the sun and moon are above the horizon, and what they call the shadow, which is color, is inverted. It destroys, that one thing destroys them right there. So it's not the Earth doing it.
Sorry about that. Correction. Yeah, Eli is correct. It's not. Their moon phases aren't caused by their globe getting in the way. Only the claim of a lunar eclipse. The moon phases aren't caused by that. Sorry, I want to just correct that.
Yeah, I thought we all knew that. Okay, fine.
Next question. So what's the radius of that sphere? We need to find out what is the radius of the Earth. And if you think about it, think about the enormity of the question you're asking here. What is the radius of the Earth? Would you believe that if I told you the radius of the Earth, there was this guy called Eratosthenes, ancient Greek, all right? He calculated the radius of the Earth.
Calculated? That's an interesting term.
2,400 years ago. 2,400 years ago, he calculated the radius of the Earth. Think of the genius.
So a couple of thousand years ago, according to you, they all thought it was flat. Yet he's calculating the radius of a sphere 2,500 years ago. Is that correct? Oh, I see. Calculating though, right?
Genius of that, right? That achievement probably.
Achievement? Sounds like he did something. What's he achieving? He's working in the abstract world of maths with calculations. I mean, if he'd have measured something, that might be interesting.
Compares to Galileo and Newton.
Sorry, you're going to tell me he's going to measure a flat plane?
He did, yeah. He measured an elevation angle using the Earth as the adjacent for his shadow.
Yeah, but you've spoiled the punchline now. I've alluded to the audience like all we're waiting for is a measurement. So when we get the measurement, it's then the punchline that we point out that's a flat Earth measurement, but you've kind of spoiled the punchline now.
Einstein.
Well, I knew that 2 weeks before you did.
It's all right. You're warming up the V10.
Yeah.
In its significance. All right. So the next thing we need to learn is exactly how did this guy Eratosthenes calculate the radius of the Earth? Because in our calculations, when we do astronavigation, we will want to know this radius. That's very important to us.
Yeah, you damn Skippy. Yeah, very important. Yeah, a lot of your presuppositions start with that radius. It's just a shame that you're going to need a flat Earth to get it.
The radius of the Earth. So let's see how Eratosthenes did it. Okay?
Rev up your engines.
All right. Calculating the radius of the Earth. Would you believe that Eratosthenes did this 2,400 years ago, and all he needed
was a mic in a tiny little room with a transformer right next to the output. That's all he needed.
All right, was, well, obviously a very clever brain.
Wow.
But he just needed a stick in the ground. So I'm using a tree over here to represent that. So suppose this is the ground, right? He needed a stick placed vertically in the ground, and he needed a water well, a well with water in it. So I'll come to the water well in a second, but first I just want to demonstrate something about the stick in the ground. Okay, so if the sun, now this is just simple, this is nothing fancy here, like.
He needed a flat Earth and parallel light rays. Divergent light rays to do that.
That's correct. So straight away we're into measuring an angle off a flat plane.
Stick in the ground.
Simple stuff. So let's imagine the sun is.
Go on. Get it all out.
Yeah. With divergent light.
Over here, okay? So this is the sun, right? This is the stick. And the rays of light are coming parallel from the sun. Obviously, it's going to cast a shadow, right? So this is the shadow of the tree. Okay. Now, if I know the height of the tree, right, and I know the length of the shadow, I can...
You can show how flat Earth is. That's right. You're using a horizontal baseline to do this. So this is a flat Earth proof. Okay. So step one, measure angles off a flat Earth. Okay. We all clear that step one is measure a flat Earth. Wasn't rhetorical.
Yes, but he's about to do it wrong, I think, from what I'm hearing.
I think
And then he's about to not replicate Eratosthenes.
You can calculate this angle. That's simple, right? You can do it any way you want. You could do Pythagoras theorem, or whatever way you want it. But this is just simple, standard, eighth.
All he does now is just take the inverse angle from a well going down to a presupposed spherical Earth next. That's all he's going to do. He's still going to need a flat Earth for the angle.
Class geometry, or maybe 7th class geometry. If you know the height of the stick and you know the length of the shadow, you can calculate this angle. Obviously, if the sun were directly overhead, you'd probably get, if the sun were directly overhead, you'd probably get a very small shadow or no shadow at all. We've all seen this happen. If the sun moves over here, right, you could probably get a shadow like this, and you'd be able to calculate the angle that the sun is at, right? So this is important. Being able to calculate the angle that the sun's rays, okay, the rays of the sun, what angle are they striking the earth, the surface of the earth at? Your surface, right? So you're standing here. At what angle are the...
Go on, John, what's your objection?
Oh, no, it's just he's saying an angle from the surface. What are the angle from the surface these rays are striking it at? Uh-oh. If it's curved, you won't get an angle.
The sun's rays hitting the surface of the earth depend where you are, right? So this is because the earth is curved. Let's say the earth was curved like this. Obviously, these rays would not form the same angle over here, right? Let's just draw a curved earth like this now.
So that's you explaining how this couldn't be done on a curved surface, like John just explained.
Exactly.
How it couldn't be done on a curved surface. Okay. So you just explained how this fails on a curved surface. Why would he do that?
Right? But to me, locally, so this is a local angle of the sun.
Oh, I see.
Locally flat.
I was going to say locally flat, of course.
So locally flat? So let me get it straight. So when we're dealing with the light that we're measuring, we're going to assume, not that we're making any assumptions, that it's so far away that the light comes in parallel. But then when we're dealing with the angle it creates on the ground, we're going to assume that we're dealing with such a small area that it's locally flat. Doesn't that seem wildly contradictory to anybody else on the panel?
Nathan, don't you always say that the thing about a sphere is that there are no flat surfaces on a sphere?
None. So what he's saying is, to get around this minor problem of Earth being spherical in my assumption and a spherical Earth not ever producing an angle, I'm just going to assume it's flat for whatever area I deal with. So you're going to need it to be flat then. Yeah, that's what we would point out. However, when it comes to navigation, you're dealing with vast areas of equal elevation over vast areas of flat terrain. So no, definitely not. You're dealing with a flat plane, always. Otherwise, you'll never get a circle of equal elevation, and they can cover thousands of square miles.
Right, but irrelevant of whether they want to say it's locally flat, the moment they say it's curved, all their calculations are false.
Yep, they all fail.
They're done. Yep.
They have to deal with it flat. It's not that he can just say, oh, well, because Earth's big, it's locally flat. No, it's never flat if it's spherical, number one. And number two, it makes every single one of your calculations fail because they need to be angular in nature, which means that no matter what this length is, it's got to be flat for the calculations to function. It can't be curved, ever. So what, you'll just deal with it flat? No, that's how Earth is dealt with and is measured. We do measure it flat for thousands and thousands of miles. Because it is. That's the only way this functions.
Isn't it funny how the claim is curvature, but it's always the excuse, oh, because it's so big, yeah, we just measure it like it's flat.
Doesn't matter how big it is.
Well,
doesn't matter if it was infinitely big. It's still curving. It's never going to give you an angle.
Don't miss the biggest problem here on top of they needed a flat Earth. The key to celestial navigation is the zenith distance from the GP of the star and the GP of the observer holding the angle measuring tool called the sextant. That is a shared baseline or adjacent. Flat Earth required. So we're going to go to when they say, well, we don't need the horizon. Okay, but you got bubble sextant. Yeah, we got bubble sextant. All right, what do you got fictitious there? Oh, well, we got an eye-line horizon based on the spirit level. Okay, is that level? Is that horizontal? Yeah. So the GP of the star on that horizontal and the GP of your eye, because it's on that line, that's the zenith distance. That's still a horizontal. It can never happen on a curved surface because it's a shared baseline. And if the baseline is a curve, the angle changes all the time, and the zenith distance would change. So it's dead in the water. So
like you just explained.
Sun. Can we call it that? Local angle of the sun. Right? These are just terms I'm inventing as I go along. Actually, I don't really
We're just Billy bullshitter making them up. Local angle of the sun. Angle.
Right. And this is why I like Eratosthenes, because you're not using a line of sight to the horizon with Eratosthenes. You're just using the surface of Earth and the nature of the ground you stand upon to get your angle, which must be flat. He's never mentioned the horizon in any of this, has he?
Not as yet, no.
Terms. But this is called the local angle of the sun, right? So just with a stick, right, and a little bit
flat Earth and a flat Earth
of geometry, you can calculate local angle.
Yeah, and a flat Earth
angle of the sun. Today, of course, we use the sextant for things
really
like that.
Bullshit alone.
Yeah, but he's saying just a stick and a bit of sunshine and a flat Earth. We can get an angle. That's right. But you will need the flat Earth. Otherwise, why would you be disclaiming how it doesn't work on a sphere and disclaiming how you're going to assume it's flat after going to great extents to tell us about how we'll get radii for something that we're not using as a sphere? Surely, after all those disclaimers about how spherical we must assume it to be, not that we're making any assumptions, wouldn't you then go on to show how spherical and useful that is to assume? Not just tell us how we ignore how spherical it isn't because it wouldn't work. It's how flat we assume it is. Seems very self-defeating.
It all begins and ends with Eratosthenes and his claims, because the claim, well, within what Eratosthenes is claimed to have claimed, right? That's a bit of a tongue twister. Is that the reason the sun gives us parallel light rays is because they're so big and far away. And that explains the shadows on a globe Earth, right? But their moon just happens to be the just correct size and distance away from their globe Earth and has divergent light, but gives us the exact same shadows. So all of their claims dies right there, because they leave that's the small print. That's heliocentric small print. Don't mention the moon shadows, because that ends everything right there. Over.
Bad moon shadow. It's been dubbed.
For our purposes of our lesson over here, we can just use a stick, right? So that's the basic. Now I'd like to move over to Open SCAD, where I'll be using a 3D model to demonstrate how exactly Eratosthenes calculated the radius of the Earth. Now, why am I doing this experiment? Well, why am I repeating this experiment for you?
Not an experiment.
And, because it's how exactly Eratosthenes calculated the radius of the Earth. Now, why am I doing this experiment? Well, why am I repeating this experiment for?
Because it's a useful magic trick to make your assumptions you denied as having and your flat Earth requirement sound more empirical. Just makes you sound better when you use those words. Like experiment, they're like magic words. So that the audience thinks you're really smart. Makes you think like, oh, this guy's a bloody scientist. When he tells you how to not assume the assumption of a spherical Earth that's useless and makes the math not work. Therefore, flat Earth required. And the only things you're going to need are a stick, a shadow, and not mentioned by him, repeated ad nausea by me, flat Earth. That's what you'll require. I see. But if you mention that it's an experiment, then people will think you're a bloody scientist, won't they?
For you. And because it's critical to astronavigation to understand how exactly he did this. Because
with a flat Earth and an angle that's only possible on a flat Earth.
That's exactly the same principle we use in astronavigation.
Flat Earth required.
So let me just close these windows, and I'll start recording again after I open a scat, right? So don't go away.
Okay, I think that's the end of this guy's presentation. So this is part 1, and I will do a proper plug for him, and then I'll let the G+ or indeed Discord, I'll give him a like. That was quite good fun. This videographer is called Aswan Karula. Hopefully I haven't butchered his name. And there's going to be a link going by in the live stream chat. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and then a positive comment so it doesn't immediately get removed by the videographer in regards to our response to his video. Selfish motivations, as always, so in the vain hope that videographers we cover on this channel would offer us some algorithmic love where we receive none from YouTube by putting the link to this video, for example, in their video if they were to respond, offering us some semblance of love from a fellow videographer rather than from YouTube. So in selfish ways, hopefully you'd do that if you were to respond to us, but in the meantime we can only do as we would hope you would do for us by sending this audience to you with the comment at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So please do that now if you're in the live stream chat. But that was part 1 of Astronavigation for Beginners. So as I say, go and send him some love, let him know we sent you. And tomorrow we'll cover part 2, which is probably about the same sort of length. So before we end the live stream and ask everyone to stay tuned for the after show, do you want to pass on any final comments in regards to part 1, panel members?
Real quick, Tempan, I love that picture. I put some comments on your Master B pictures. I love that picture that proves it. That right there destroys by total vicious annihilation any parallel rays coming from a far distant 93 million miles far away sun. Excellent.
Is that dog cam? Is that what you wanted me to put up?
Yes, sir. And
Yeah,
good morning, everybody.
Yeah, I put it up. I put it up. Anybody else?
I do appreciate this guy for explaining exactly how it would not work if it was a sphere and how we have to assume it's flat. Even for his calculations.
Yes, that was my favourite bit
him
too.
being honest.
Yes, that was my favourite bit too. Excellent. Any more for any more? Okay, then. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to Discord and G+ for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. As I say, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!